My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the Eagle River market, looking at the condo, the residential, and the multifamily market. Before we get started, though, do make sure you get this video liked, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And let's go ahead and jump into today's market update, looking first at the residential market. Now, there really hasn't been that much of a change looking at the residential market as far as the total number of properties that are available currently. This time last year, there was about 44. This year, 45. So very, very minor increase, and that's pretty much the story of what we had the year before. Really, for Eagle River across the board, we're seeing that the inventory has been right at or maybe even a little above or a little below. We're seeing just a little bit of a buffer there, a little bit of a swing from where we were the year before on each month, really for the entire year. So there's been a little variety there, but by and large, it's been less inventory from what we saw the year before across the entire board for Eagle River. 40 anything houses on the market for Eagle River in the month of December is low. So it's I don't want to say anything about it not likely going lower than that, but probably that's going to be about as low as it goes. We'll see what this upcoming December in 2023 holds. Now, the next thing that we see is that the total number of properties is sold in Eagle River for the month of December went from about 70 the year before to about 20 this year. So less than a third of what the total number of properties is sold for the month of December is the number that we sold this year. So there's been a significant slowdown for the number of properties that are actually selling across the board in Eagle River. This time last year, there was about 741, and this year it was about 550 properties across the entire board sold in Eagle River. So we're seeing this slowdown of the number of properties that are actually selling in Eagle River. And that's something that we need to keep a pretty close eye on moving forward. It's not that big of a surprise just because we had such a short, small inventory for such a long period of time. You can't just keep turning out these big record number of years for the number of units and number of houses that have been selling and still have record low inventory. Eventually, we knew those numbers were going to catch up with us, and this is the first sign of that actually doing that. Now, the next big thing that we're seeing is the average sold price went from about $423,000 to about $468,000 the next year, which means there has been a over 10% increase from the year before. And this time last year, we had about an 8.3% increase. So despite, everything that's going on, with the interest rates and the demand kind of slipping back a little bit for buyers because of the interest rates, we're still seeing an acceleration of the appreciation, not an insanely fast appreciation, but the appreciation is still going up. I kind of suspect this has more to do with the fact that this is a time of inflation. And so the cost of housing is going to be going up just because everything is going up. And of course, housing is going to stay right along with it. Housing and real estate in general is, as an asset, going to keep up with the pace of inflation better than any other, asset or commodity you can find out there. So that's not surprising. Let's take a break here real quick. For those of you who have been watching for a little bit, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast, and the purpose of that podcast is really tell the stories of people who have recently moved up here to Alaska or those who've lived up here for a long time. So if you're thinking about making a move up here, that might be a great place to start so you can kind of start seeing what other people have done to accomplish what it is that you're wanting to do. So link for that is going to be in the description section down below. We've got tons of episodes on there, so jump in there, go treat yourself. And without further ado, I'll let you go ahead and get back into today's market update. Next thing we're going to look at is what's going on in the condo market. Condos have historically not been a huge part of the real estate market here in Eagle River. Still, we're going to cover it because there are condos coming on the market all the time here. And I suspect this is going to become a bigger part of the real estate market in the future. And so we're going to cover it. So the first thing that I see is that this time last year in December, there were 7. And now there are 3. Not dealing with huge numbers to begin with, but over a 50% cut in the inventory. Next thing we see is that the number of condos that actually sold went from 12 the year before to 6 the next year. And for the entire year, we see the number of condos that sold was about 125. This year, it went down to 95. But that does actually sound like a good solid 25% decrease from what we saw this time last year. Now, that's about what we were seeing on the residential side. So again, not a huge surprise. It's just kind of in a smaller, more compact market because it's the condo instead of residential. Now, the next thing we see is the price for condos, despite the inventory being down so low. It went from about 266,000 to about 298,000 for the year to date that we had the most information for, which was in December. So the number of property or the rate of appreciation was approximately 11% year over year. And that's actually a faster rate than what we saw on the residential side. We're going to look at the multifamily in just a second. Before we kind of jump into that, though, let's take a break real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a while, you do know that I focus primarily on the South Central Alaska area, focusing primarily on Anchorage and the Mat-Su Valley. And that being the case, I don't really work in a whole lot of places outside that area. Now, I do have colleagues who collaborate on this channel. For those of you who've been watching a little bit, you've been seeing these market updates popping up from people who are other than me. So if you are considering moving to or moving from or moving in, one of these areas, then certainly do feel free to reach out to them using the website link down below, and just make sure you put in the little comment section the area it is that you're wanting to move from, so I kind of have an idea for who I need to get you hooked up with. So I just want to make sure you were aware of that opportunity. Multifamily market, it's pretty abysmal, not going to lie. This time last year, there were 3 multifamily properties that were available. This year, nothing. Nada. No multifamily available in the month of December. And that's not great if you're an investor. Not entirely unexpected, though, because Eagle River is such a smaller market and you're going to see lots of demand for it just because rents are pretty predictable. And it's going to be a very good Class B area where you're going to have rents on time. You're not going to have a whole lot of drama. You're not going to have to worry about a lot of issues that you're going to have with a high cap area. So those are going to be things Eagle River has going for it. And once somebody actually comes in and purchases one of them, they're usually not going to want to sell it very quickly. So I'm not really surprised that there's absolutely no multifamily properties available in Eagle River. That's the first time I've seen that. Not a huge surprise. With that being the case, though, we are seeing that the number of multifamily properties that actually closed, it was 1 in 2001, and in 2021, December, we see that the number was 2. Now, across the entire board for the entire year, 2021 compared to 22, we see in 21, the number of multifamily properties closed was 19. This year, we see it was 13. So again, we are seeing kind of a decline in the number of properties that are selling. I'm going to talk very briefly about the average sold price for multifamily properties here in Eagle River. I'm kind of loath to do so just because it's such a small sample size. And I mean, besides multifamily, it includes everything from the little duplex all the way up to the huge commercial property. So it's hard to actually extrapolate any useful information here. The average sold price this time last year was about $568,000. Now it's about $606,000, which means that we've gone up by about 6.7%. And this is, again, it's not taking in consideration, like, are these all duplexes, fourplexes? Are these a 30-plex commercial property? What is this? It's really hard to kind of glean any information from it. I would not be surprised at all that we're seeing a pretty healthy increase in the appreciation for homes in the area because this is the time of inflation and those rents are going to be going up, and that is just the way that it's going to work. Those are kind of the economic factors that the property owners have going for them. Now, what is the takeaway for everybody? If you're a buyer, I'd say that this landscape is looking different, better than what it was back in 2020, 2021. In some ways, because you have way less competition than what you had before, where you had to come in like $30,000, $40,000 over asking price, and then you had to do all this crazy stuff and waive a whole lot of stuff. I never recommended anyone waive inspections, but some people were definitely doing it. It's looking better in that way. just because there's less demand and the interest rates are going to be higher though. So you just have to make sure you saved up, make sure that it makes financial sense for you to jump into it right now. I am not expecting a huge collapse anytime in the near future that I can see in the data. Obviously, these are all theories and we'll adjust those theories accordingly if we have new data. But currently, I see no reason to think that we're going to suddenly just switch into a buyer's market where the value of properties are going to tank and everything's just going to be on sale like what it was back in 2008, 2009. By the way, there wasn't that huge of a tank here in the Alaska area compared to the rest of the lower 48 during that time period. Things did go down a little bit, but it wasn't like a market collapse like it was in some places. So that should be reason to give you a little more confidence. You're going to be spending more just because the interest rates are going up, the appreciation, it's not going to be going down anytime soon. And that's a lot of people are going to be like, what's going on with that? Well, this is inflation, and that's what happens. Real estate keeps up with the cost of inflation much faster than any other asset class, which makes it a good reason to acquire it so you can ride that going up and to make sure that your number one line item on your monthly expenses, which is going to be your housing, stays consistent and it's not going to be going up every year in the way of your rent going up. Now, if you're a seller, the market's not what it was a couple of years ago. Just because your neighbor got this super plush deal with all these great benefits and perks does not necessarily mean you're going to get the same thing and not have to make any effort and everything's going to happen on the first day. Best thing I can say, price aggressively. Understand that, yes, things are still going up, but it's better to be more on the conservative side and to be able to get, multiple buyers. Yes, you can still get multiple offers in this market, but if you can price it aggressively to where it needs to be, I'm not saying put it on sale. I'm saying price it to where it needs to be. Don't try to set a neighborhood record because bad things happen to sellers who are on the market too long in a market with buyers who have been getting beat up the past couple of years and they're going to be looking for blood. So yeah, don't put yourself in a weak negotiating stance by staying at a price that's unrealistic for a few months before you decide to come down, because chances are the buyers are going to decide to take about 2 years worth of pent up real estate frustration out on you if you put yourself in that situation. If you're an investor, the best thing I can say is keep waiting and see what comes available. Reach out to me. I might be able to, just know somebody that might be looking at selling something in the near future. So feel free to reach out to me. Be happy to see if we can make that work for you. Thanks for watching. I sure hope this has been useful. If you have questions, reach out to me in the description section down below. I have a website or link to my Facebook page. Feel free to reach out to me on those. And of course, as always, make sure to drop any other questions you have in the comment section down below.